Hello, everybody. My name is Sarina. I'm the sales manager at Scribe Publications. So Scribe is an independent publisher. We have been publishing since 1976. So 46 years we have been an independent publishing house. Some of the books that you may know: The Brain That Changes Itself. This was one of our biggest sellers and continues to sell. It's probably the book that really kind of put us on the map. Another Scribe title that is one of my all-time favourites, I loved this book, was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. It's a delightful memoir. It's about a woman who is a therapist, but she also has a really interesting background. She was a scriptwriter on ER when George Clooney was in ER. And because of that show, she decided to become a doctor. Anyway, it's hilarious. It's great. It's about her life, but it's also about her patients. Anyway, all very, very favourite book of mine. So good to see so many comments. And Mary, I'm so glad to hear that you loved Maybe You Should Talk to Someone as well. Hello, so many people. This is so good. All right, and I just wanted to talk about a new book that's just come out from Scribe, which is called Farm by Nicola Harvey. And this is a memoir. So she worked as in the media in Sydney, a very busy lifestyle. And she basically then went and moved to rural New Zealand with her partner to run a cattle farm. And her dad was a farmer, and he basically said, I bet you can't do it. And all her friends thought she was just going to do a tree change and that she'd be sitting on the veranda, you know, in a cozy knitwear and having cups of tea, but it was far from that. So it's a really interesting book. It made me completely rethink, you know, how hard farmers work. It's warm, it's funny, it's enlightening, and you're really there in the paddocks with her. So good to see so many people. Oh, Where the Crawdads Sing, Alison. Yes, I have read that book, but I have not seen the film. I don't know, that's such a big thing, you know, about book to film, because obviously books are such an amazing resource and such incredible stories, and then to see them turned into film, because I think the thing with books is that you can imagine the characters in your mind. So when you see them on screen, you know, people get very kind of protective about it. And I'm just looking here at some more comments. The Mother Wound by Marnie Hayder. I have that on my pile at home to read, actually. Speaking of piles, the reading pile that you have on your bedside table or on your coffee table or wherever, they just keep growing. It never seems to come down. But I was going to talk to you a little bit about some of the books that I have read this year that I have loved. So I also just wanted to say I have been a bookseller as well. I've been publisher and bookseller. So it's a really great kind of way. Bookselling is such a rewarding job, talking to customers, getting to read lots of different things. So one of the books that I've loved this year is Dirt Town by Hayley Scrivener. So we know that rural crime, I think, has just been such a popular genre, and I really feel like it kind of was kickstarted with Jane Harper, The Dry. Oh, and I'm just looking, Anne Lennox is reading Richard Flanagan's Living Sea of Waking Dreams. I love that book. It was fantastic. And so I'm going back to Dirt Town. Yes, so Dirt Town. Terrific. Love the setup. Each chapter is told by a different character. Julie Ascari is saying she loves Dirt Town as well. And I think the thing about this book is it felt really original in her voice. And that's one of the things, I guess, being a publisher and being a bookseller, that's the thing. It's voice. It's that wonderful excitement of discovering a new writer and a really fresh new voice. and someone's saying that they have been reading Cutter's End by Margaret Hickey. I haven't read any Margaret Hickey yet. So Dirktown was a definite, this is one of my favourites. Another favourite book this year has been Johann Hari's Stolen Focus. And I know that this has been really popular. It's always in the top 10 of non-fiction books of the year. And it was one of those books that expanded my thinking about the subject matter. And the thing that, you know, really great non-fiction can do is kind of make you see an issue or, you know, something in a different way. And what I think Johann does so well is he's kind of looking at, you know, modern society and attention. And I described it to someone when I was talking about it, like he's holding up a kaleidoscope and he's shifting the view of how we're looking at attention through a whole lot of different ways. I remember where I read it in like, I don't know, 2 days. It was, loved it. I feel like I was a little bit late to the party, but this book, Love and Virtue by Diana Reid, this came out last Christmas. And she's got a new book coming out this Christmas as well. But Love and Virtue, I was about to say I'm loving it, but I am. It's really enjoyable. It's different from what I expected, I think, but her sense of place and the details that she has about the characters, I just absolutely love. And Better Reading are telling me that they recorded a podcast with Johann. I should listen to that podcast. Also, Better Reading, I hear that you've hit 1 million podcast downloads, which is incredible. Kate Solly has read Dark Roots by Kate Kennedy. That's a Scribe title, actually. We love Kate. And there's another book of hers of short stories called Like a House on Fire. That's been really, really good as well. I'm waiting for her next book. I really want Kate to write her next book. Anne Miller is saying she's recently read The Maid. I haven't read that one, but again, it's on the pile, the big growing pile of books. Another book that I want to read, which I have now, because she's got a new book coming out, I think it was this week, is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Sorry, that's a bit shiny. I haven't read this. I keep hearing really great things about it. Her new book is called The Marriage Portrait, I think. And I think everyone keeps telling me how fantastic this is. So I'm really looking forward to reading that one. Suzanne Bowditch says she's reading The Lincoln Highway. Again, it's on my pile. Oh, so many things. And lots of people. Ooh. Oh, someone say Suzanne also says she loved Hamnet, beautiful writing. Yes, so I'm really looking forward to, because I don't read a lot of historical fiction, I have to say. I read a lot of novels. I read a lot of contemporary novels. I read a lot of non-fiction for work. And so with historical fiction, I don't know whether it's something that I just wasn't brought up reading a lot of. But yeah, I think sometimes with books, to me, it doesn't really matter what the genre is. If it's really good quality writing and you're going to take me on a journey, I will be there. Christine Wren James has said she's reading The Idea of Perfection by Kate Granville. That was a great book. I do remember that book as well. And Kate Granville's The Secret River is one of my favourite books. Before today, I actually did a bit of a looked on my bookshelves and I thought about my top books. Like, it's almost like picking children, you know. About 5 years ago, when I was a bookseller, we were having a big anniversary birthday party for the shop and we had to come up with our top 20 books. That was really hard. So I looked at that list and I thought, I'm going to whittle it down to top 10. And, you know, and do they stand the test of time? So I might read out some of my top 10 favourite books. And it's not in order, just so you know. That will, yeah. As in, it's not in sequential order. Joe Cinque's Consolation by Helen Garner. That was a book that I think was quite a game changer in terms of the way a writer could write about crime. It's true crime, but it's also a book about people and grief and the justice system. That I remember just being blown away by that book. What else is on my list? Between a Wolf and a Dog by Georgia Blaine. That's a Scribe title, actually, and I remember when we published it. And it's a book that I read almost every year, actually. I would love to know if there's anyone if there's a book that anyone has read multiple times. And I don't know why it's this particular book, but between Christmas and New Year, for some reason, it's almost like a really warm hug of a book. And so even though I know the story, even though I've read it now multiple times, Between a Wolf and a Dog, there's always something about that book on rereading it that is new for me. And Lee Revel has said, can we get a written list of your top 10? Yes, yes, you definitely can. What I can do is I'll send the Better Reading team a list and we can put that up. Another book that I loved was The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society by Mary Ann Schaefer. I'm sure lots of you have read that book. Some of you may have seen that movie. Again, that was just an utter delight, that book. And I loved the style. It was written in letters. And I don't know, there was just something magical about that book when I read it. And actually, I think the film, they did a pretty good job. I was a bit nervous, but I think they kind of captured the essence of that book really well. Also on my top 10, what else is here? There's an author called Tom Rackman. He's a Canadian writer, and he's written quite a few novels. And the first book that he got published was called The Imperfectionists. And I fell in love with that book. And I feel like he might be a little bit underrated in terms of he's written several novels, and I think he's such a great quality writer. And The Imperfectionists is set in Rome, and it's got 11 main characters, and each chapter is from a different character, and they're all working for an English-speaking newspaper that's basically crumbling due to technology. It's written about probably 2014, I think it was, when it was first published. Anyway, totally wonderful book. I'd be interested to see if that ever becomes a film, because I feel like it's a very filmic book. Set in Rome, 11 different characters. And Yvonne Luckhurst is saying she loved both the book and the movie. I'm thinking Guernsey, that you loved that. Speaking of books that we love, this was my book of the year last year. I'm sorry, can't see it. Still Life by Sarah Winman. This was an absolute treasure of a book. So I can't wait to see what she does next. I've read her other books. Kate Solly says, my ultimate comfort reread is Anne of Green Gables. Oh, that was one of my all-time favourite series as a child. I think I actually wanted to be Anne for quite some time. I'd really like to go to Prince Edward Island. My niece actually dressed up as Anne of Green Gables for Book Week this year. So, Anne of Green Gables does have a very special place in my heart. Suzanne says, who is the author of The Imperfectionists? His name is Tom Rackman. It's spelled Rachman. And he's published by Text Publishing. And Kate Solly says, I looked up Between a Wolf and a Dog on Goodreads. I made sure to select the title that was not Werewolf Erotica. That sounds like that's a very specific genre, I'm sure. Yes, but Between a Wolf and a Dog by Georgia Blaine is an incredible. There is something about that book. It's set over the course of one day in Sydney. It's pouring with rain, and it's about a family, and it's grown up children, siblings, 3 of them, the parents, and it's this one day, and their lives kind of unspool. Speaking of unspooling, another of my favourite authors is Anne Tyler. I love Anne Tyler. I remember I've read her books for a long time, actually. She's been publishing for a long time. She's amazing. And also Anne Patchett I love as well, who also owns a bookshop. I don't know how she does it. She is an author, and she runs a bookshop in Texas. I actually emailed her once and asked her if I could come and work in her bookshop, like a work experience thing. And she said, when I say work experience, like a work exchange, because her bookshop does incredible things, and they have the most amazing events, and authors get going to that shop. And I'm just trying to remember the name of her bookshop. I don't know if anyone knows it. I think it might be Parnassus Books, and Anne Patchett. She's one of my favourite authors. And also on my top 10 is a woman, 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. I don't know if anyone has read that book. That was quite big when it came out a few years ago. And that's non-fiction. So Lisa spent 8 years interviewing 3 women over 8 years. And it was a book about desire and their love and relationships. So that was, I just tore through that book. And I was going to ask, is there anyone who, if you can remember like where you were and your favourite, like sometimes there are books that, you remember exactly where you were when you read them. And I think that makes it a very special reading experience when, you can go straight back into that mind. Mary Ladrick is saying she loved 3 Women. It's a bit of a divisive book because I did it for a book group, and some people just loved it and a few people hated it, and it was very controversial. But I think in a way that's one thing that book groups are so great at, is that they expand your reading. You might read a book that you would never have picked up otherwise. Speaking of books that you wouldn't normally pick up, or maybe you get stretched in a different direction, I haven't read, and I really think I should. I'd like to read Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know she wrote Malibu Rising. Again, it's in my pile at home on my bedside table, and I think she's got a new book out, maybe right now, like this week. So yeah, that's I'd love to know if, oh look, Better Reading said they did a podcast with Anne Patchett. I really need to listen to some podcasts. So there's that. I'd like to read some Taylor Jenkins Reid, and there's another book that I read this year which I didn't bring with me because I've lent it to my mum and she hasn't given it back yet. It's called Vladimir by Julia Jonas May, and it was recommended to me by Readings Bookshop. Oh, Malvina says Anne Patchett's bookshop is Parnassus. Yes, in Nashville. Meredith Griffin says, I 100% recommend Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay. She's going to the top of the pile. And again, podcast. Oh, shit, it's your book of the week this week, Better Reading. Okay. Look at all these comments. I'm going to have to read some Taylor Jenkins. And so, the book that I was telling you about, Vladimir by Julia Jonas May. It is kind of loopy, crazy campus novel, funny, dark sense of humour. It's about a couple. The husband is a professor, but the wife also works at the university. They're sort of in their 50s or 60s. He is being accused of all sorts of inappropriate behaviour. It's the Me Too era on campus. And then it all gets turned on its head when the wife starts a kind of dalliance with the new English tutor. It's really funny and crazy. and very unexpected. Like, it was just, I haven't read anything quite like that before. So that was called Vladimir by Julia Jonas May. It's 2:20 already. We're just flying here. Okay, so Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm just getting Taylor, read some Taylor Jenkins Reid. I shall. And I think there's quite a few. There's Daisy and the Six, there's Malibu Rising. So I think there's a nice, some good backlist there. Well, what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to send the lovely team of Jasmine and Jane and Dex and Cheryl at Better Reading, I'm going to send them my top 10 list. And also, just to be aware, it's very subjective. And all these books, now that I'm looking at my list, I think every single one of them has almost made me cry, that they're really packed an emotional punch. And there's one book on the list that I'll quickly talk about before we wrap up. It's called 3 Junes, as in the month, so Junes. So 3 Junes by Julia Glass, and it came out over 10, 12 years ago. It was her debut novel in America. It won a National Book Award for Best Fiction, and it's about the MacLeod family in Scotland. I mean, it's a fictional family, and it follows them over a decade through, and each month of June something kind of big happens. And Kate Solly says she's find top 10 lists very daunting. It is a little bit daunting, I have to say, but it's kind of a really great exercise as well, because you can, I was looking at my list and I thought they're all novels, and they've just, except for 3 women, and they've all made me either laugh or cry. Oh no, Jodie Chinque's Consolation is not a novel, I should say that. But, they're all books that have had an emotional impact. And that's, why books are so fantastic. So I'm going to get that list. I'm going to send it off to the team and they can pop it up on the website. And Jacqueline Francis Bell has just bought Taylor Jenkins Reid's new book. Oh, I've got so many books to read. But I would like to say thank you, everyone. It was really fun to kind of talk about the books that I'm reading, the books that I've loved. And all I can say is happy reading. And thank you, everybody, for your comments and your enthusiasm. And I really appreciate it.